Senator Ted Cruz is our guest. He just finished getting his haircut at Shelley Luther's hair salon, Salon a la Mode. Senator?
Michael, great to be with you.
I'm happy to see that you did that. I have a couple of questions related to your haircut before we get to the principle behind it.
Sure.
I have looked up on the did you give direction as to how you wanted it cut?
I just said short and parted on the side, although to be honest, it had gotten long enough. It had been about 3 months since I'd gotten a haircut, and so Heidi was giving me grief at home that I was starting to sport a full-on mullet.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was long enough that you could have done the mullet. Did you get any color? I noticed there's a lot of salt in the pepper.
Well, look, I'm fine with it turning gray as long as the hair sticks around. I don't care what color it is.
Good
I
call.
just want it here.
Okay. Are you willing to do plugs if it gets to that?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm good with what I got, but I would like it to stick around.
Senator Ted Cruz, you went to visit a salon where the owner was arrested and sentenced to a week in prison, $3,500 fine, $500 a day. Of course, the governor got involved. The Texas State Supreme Court got involved. The president was interested in this case. Why are you there today?
Well, what happened to Shelley Luther was wrong. She got sentenced to 7 days in jail for the crime of cutting hair. That's crazy. That's nuts. It's not right. And even worse than that, when she was sentenced, the judge, who was an elected Democrat in Dallas, he demanded of her. He said if she would just apologize to the elected officials, that she wouldn't have to go to jail. Well, that is truly crazy. That in the United States, elected officials don't get to demand of the citizens that they apologize to them. That's not the way it works. We work for the people, not the other way around. And so when I saw that, I spoke out loudly at the time and said it was crazy and it was unjust. And I'm glad to see that the Texas Supreme Court stepped in and ordered her release from jail. And so she was released from jail, and this morning she reopened her hair salon, and I needed a haircut anyway. I made the decision to jump on an airplane and fly up to Dallas and go in this morning and get my hair cut there.
I know you're hearing it because you hear a lot from constituents, but people are frustrated. They're ready to reopen. Everybody's not required to reopen. We have this case of these two ladies in Laredo, 120, 130, who were doing nails and eyes, and 6 months in jail? Good grief.
It is nuts. It is an abuse of power. I spoke out against that as well. In fact, we just finished talking with reporters where I said, the local police officers were doing an undercover sting to catch beauticians. What in the hell is wrong with us? Aren't there enough real criminals in the world? You got murderers and drug dealers and child molesters, and we're out trying to catch beauticians. I mean, that's just it's not right. And I do think, I do think a lot of people in Texas and across the country have been horrified by the overreaching that we've seen.
What do you expect to come out of Congress related to further PPP and stimulus and the like? I know there's a battle. You've gone on record in saying we're not going to right-size states that were, spendthrifts or that were spending loosely before this and had structural financial problems before all this. We're not going to make that up because of coronavirus. What do you expect we're going to see in the next month or two?
Well, look, I think that is very much subject to debate. The Senate was back in session for the first time in a month this past week, so I was in D.C. with the Senate. We've been working from home prior to that. There are real disagreements. You've got congressional Democrats that want to spend trillions of dollars more, that they're trying to bail out big blue states that have massive unfunded pension liabilities with nothing to do with coronavirus. I think that's wrong. I don't think it is fair to the people of Texas. Texas has lived within our means. We haven't overspent, and it's not fair for Texas taxpayers to subsidize, for example, the state of Illinois. They have a $241 billion unfunded pension liability because a bunch of Democratic politicians tried to buy votes and live irresponsibly, and we shouldn't be bailing that out. I think the right answer instead we can't spend enough taxpayer money to get out of this. The right answer is we've got to move on a road to recovery. We need to get Texans, we need to get Americans back to work. Now, Michael, at the same time, I think most people recognize that we need to follow common sense, that yes, we need to be serious stopping the spread of this virus. We need to take common sense steps. So when I got my haircut this morning at Shelley Luther's salon, I was wearing a mask. I was wearing gloves. Shelley was wearing a mask. The hairdressers were all wearing masks. They used disinfectant on the chair. The hairdresser used disinfectant on her hand before she started cutting my hair. We can take reasonable common sense steps to slow the spread of this virus. But at the same time, we got to recognize that 33 million people have lost their jobs in the last 2 months, and there is an enormous human toll and human consequence. And we've got to get people back to work and able to provide for their families and to provide for their kids.
Absolutely. How confident are you, Senator Cruz, that the Chinese will be sufficiently punished that they won't want to do this again?
Well, they need to be, and I think the first step to that is accountability, is detailing exactly their responsibility, their complicity. And there are a couple of elements of that. Number one, the preponderance of the evidence right now seems to indicate that the most likely source for this virus was one of 2 Chinese labs controlled by the Chinese government. Both of those labs were in Wuhan, where the outbreak began. One of the labs was literally 300 yards away from the wet market where we think it originated. We know that both of those labs were studying not only viruses, but coronaviruses, the type of virus that this is, and not only coronaviruses, but coronaviruses derived from bats. And in fact, the type of bat that carries the novel coronavirus is a type of bat that in China, the closest you can find it in nature is 1,000 miles away, in caves 1,000 miles away. The most natural supposition from all of that evidence is that they were studying this virus at one or both of these labs, and they accidentally let it escape. They either infected a person or an animal or something else. We know for a fact that the U.S. State Department had 2 separate internal wires before this crisis started, raising concerns about the very poor safety protocols at these labs and the risk that they would cause a global pandemic of the coronavirus. That was before this happened. And we also know that after the outbreak started, that the Chinese government ordered the labs to destroy all their samples. And I got to say, the natural supposition that anyone would take from that, if you're destroying evidence, is that you don't want people to see what is in the evidence. And so I think the preponderance of the evidence right now suggests that it escaped inadvertently from a Chinese lab. We need to find that out definitively. We need to discover exactly what they were researching and how it was released. Not only that, Michael, we know for a fact, there's no doubt about this, that the Chinese Communist government suppressed and covered up this outbreak when it happened. There were heroic physician whistleblowers in China, Chinese heroes, who spoke up and tried to draw attention to this outbreak and stop it. And the Chinese government, they punished them, they silenced them, they did everything they could to cover it up. Any responsible government would have sent in public health professionals, would have quarantined those affected. And if we'd have done that, there's a very real possibility this could have been contained as a regional outbreak rather than a global pandemic costing the lives of over 250,000 people worldwide and costing trillions of dollars of wealth that's been destroyed. And the Chinese Communist government bears very direct responsibility and culpability for those deaths and that economic devastation.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you.
God bless.